am not yet ready for hell.
Solomon, do something!
I will find her.
In 16th century North Africa, English privateer Solomon Kane leads his crew into a fierce assault against Ottoman forces who have seized control of a town. Chaos erupts in the streets as Solomon showcases his brutal combat prowess, cutting down enemies without hesitation. The group pushes forward until they reach the fortress, where the defenders quickly seal the main gate to keep them out. But Solomon's men waste no time and blow the entrance wide open. As fire spreads through the halls, Solomon walks through the carnage until he finds one wounded soldier still alive. He threatens the man, forcing him to reveal the location of the throne room, then promptly shoots him dead. They advance into the throne chamber, which is filled with mirrors. As the crew explores the room, demonic figures suddenly emerge from the glass, dragging some of the men into the mirrors. Panic spreads, but Solomon orders them to press on. When one man attempts to flee, Solomon coldly shoots him down. A door then creaks open at the back of the room, revealing the throne. Solomon steps inside, but the door slams shut behind him, trapping the rest of the crew outside. Ignoring a strange sound echoing through the chamber, he turns his attention to the treasure near the frozen corpse of the king. He checks his breath and realizes the temperature has dropped drastically. As a chilling aura envelops the room, dark shadows begin slithering out from the nearby statues. The shadows converge at the throne and materialize into a fearsome demon, the Devil's Reaper. The Reaper strikes Solomon with dark energy, knocking him down. He declares he has come to claim Solomon's soul, condemning his life of bloodshed and greed. When Solomon talks back, the Reaper lashes him again and conjures a flaming sword. A brutal clash begins. The Reaper tries to cut him down, but Solomon blocks the blade with his own and defiantly claims he's not ready for damnation. He dodges a flurry of attacks and finally escapes by hurling himself through a nearby window. 1 year later, Solomon is now in England, living in a monastery. He has renounced violence, given away his fortune to the church, and is seeking redemption to save his soul from eternal torment. His room is now covered in eerie writings, and he's marked his body with protective tattoos meant to ward off demons. One day, a priest tells him that ever since Solomon arrived, an ominous presence has been growing. And just last night, a prophetic dream revealed that Solomon must leave the monastery. Heartbroken but obedient, Solomon departs with no clear direction. He begins wandering through a bleak winter landscape, witnessing horrifying sights, plague doctors torching the infected, and rows of townsfolk hanging as punishment. One day, a wagon carrying the Crowthorne family passes by and offers Solomon a lift, but he declines the offer. Later that day, Solomon stops to rest when he begins to hear strange whispering. Out of nowhere, a man sneaks up from behind and holds a knife to him. 2 more attackers emerge from hiding, strike Solomon a few times, and start rummaging through his belongings. When they realize he's carrying no gold, they pull out some papers covered in mysterious symbols. Thinking he must be some kind of sorcerer, they drag him over to the fire and suggest burning him like a witch. Solomon resists slightly but refuses to fight back. The thieves beat him until he falls unconscious. A flashback reveals a glimpse of Solomon's past. He was the son of a powerful lord, but as the second-born, his father expected him to join the priesthood while his older brother Marcus would inherit the estate. Solomon refused to take holy vows and fled from his home, causing his father to disown him. Suddenly the Reaper appears in the vision, and Solomon jolts awake, realizing he's now in the Crowthorne family's wagon. They assure him he's safe, and soon the group stops to make camp for the night. Though Solomon should be resting, he insists on helping out to be polite. He washes up, while the children watch with curiosity, especially intrigued by the tattoos etched all over his body. Later that evening, over dinner, Solomon tells tales of the many people who hired his crew for battles. Meredith, the daughter, is fascinated by the stories, though her older brother scolds her for being excited about violence. Their father, William, reveals he once served in the Queen's army before he turned to faith. Taking lives used to weigh heavily on him, but Solomon confesses that, for him, killing came naturally. That night, Solomon has another dream. He's back in his youth, leaving his family's estate. He stumbles upon Marcus, who is seen trying to force himself on a girl, striking her to silence her screams. Solomon tried to intervene, pulling out a knife, but Marcus quickly gained the upper hand, slicing Solomon's cheek in the struggle. Marcus then dragged him to the cliff's edge, shoving him while warning him to leave for good. Solomon shoved back, causing Marcus to stumble on a rock and accidentally fall off the cliff. Back in the present, Solomon wakes up and sits with William by the fire. William shows him a locket containing images of his wife and daughter. He shares that his family is planning to sail to the New World for a fresh start. He invites Solomon to come with them, but Solomon says his soul is cursed and that they'd be better off without him. Over the next few days, Solomon keeps journeying alongside the Crowthorne family. Meredith even takes the time to make him a new set of clothes. One afternoon, her younger brother Samuel asks Solomon to teach him how to fight. Solomon gives him a quick lesson using sticks for practice. While walking, they come across a village that's been burned to the ground. Curious, they go take a look. Scattered around are bodies with scorched eyes. William blames it on the devil's work, but Solomon finds a pyre and suspects the villagers failed to execute a witch. Meredith spots some movement and discovers a young girl still alive among the corpses. They bring her back to their camp, and she confirms that the villagers tried to burn a witch, but the fire had no effect on her. The witch retaliated by slaughtering everyone and burning out their eyes for daring to watch her suffer. The Crowthorns kneel to pray for the dead, but the girl lashes out and refuses angrily. This makes Solomon wary. He borrows a cross from the family and tries to hand it to the girl. Instead, she turns to Meredith and cryptically says, "It's you he wants." It turns out the girl is the witch. She marks Meredith's hand with a strange symbol, and her eyes change as she leaps at Solomon, shrieking that the devil is waiting for him. Solomon throws her off, and she reveals her monstrous true form. She attempts another attack but fails, then transforms into a flock of birds and vanishes into the sky. Elsewhere, in a nearby town, a brutal group of cultists are terrorizing the people, capturing them and locking them in cages for their master, the sorcerer Malachi. The group is commanded by the masked rider, who rewards his followers by pressing his hand to their faces, transferring dark energy into them. Their eyes change, and the rider's touch leaves scorched marks, but now they possess enhanced strength. The Crowthorns are setting up camp, while Solomon examines the strange mark on Meredith's hand, but it doesn't match anything he recognizes. That night, Samuel wakes Solomon up, saying he heard something unusual. Solomon heads off to investigate and spots cultists abducting more villagers. With Solomon away, the cultists easily ambush the campsite. They overpower William, who tries but fails to protect his family. When they see the mark on Meredith's hand, they declare that she's the one they're looking for, something the masked rider confirms. Solomon returns just in time, and Samuel begs him to kill the cultists. But instead of attacking, Solomon attempts to bargain for the family's safety. The masked rider channels his voice through one of his followers, ordering Solomon to kill the man as a test. Solomon refuses, holding on to his vow of peace, so the cultist immediately murders Samuel. Crushed by the boy's death, Solomon finally breaks his oath, shouting that he's willing to go to hell if it means ending these monsters. He launches into battle with furious precision, disarming the killer and stabbing him with his own blade. Some cultists try to stop him, while others grab Meredith and flee. William rushes to save his daughter, but is stabbed by two attackers. His older son is also killed in the struggle. Consumed by rage, Solomon beheads another cultist and keeps fighting, slaying anyone who dares to stand in his path. While Solomon is occupied, the masked rider and most of his men escape on horseback with Meredith. Solomon isn't quick enough to catch them. After the battle, he finds William, who makes Solomon promise to rescue Meredith. William tells him that saving her will redeem his soul, then he dies. His grieving wife gives Solomon the locket for the journey. Before leaving, Solomon arms himself with weapons from the cultists and takes one of their horses. As he rides off through the woods, he notices the dark magic fading from the cultists' corpses. Suddenly, more cultists jump out to ambush him, but Solomon draws both pistols and kills them instantly. He races down the road and catches up to another group, cutting them down with precise swings of his sword. Afterward, he unlocks a cage full of rescued captives and shows them the locket, asking if any of them saw Mary. Unfortunately, none of them had. Meanwhile, just a few miles away, cultists are burning another town to the ground. Meredith is trapped in a cage, calming the other prisoners, while the masked rider silently watches them. 3 days later, Solomon rides past crowds of refugees fleeing another destroyed town. He heads to the remains and rests inside an old abandoned church. While praying, He's startled by someone's presence and instinctively draws his sword, but it's only Father Michael, who never abandoned his church. Michael shares that he's witnessed horrific events and confirms the cult is behind the destruction. Their leader, Malachi, is a servant of the devil, but no one has ever seen him. He stays hidden in his fortress. Victims of the cult are either turned into warriors or enslaved based on their strength. Suddenly, Solomon hears a strange noise. Michael opens a hidden trapdoor in the floor, revealing a group of ghouls kept underground. Solomon is shocked, asking why they haven't been destroyed. Michael confesses that these creatures were once his congregation, cursed and transformed by Malachi's magic. He believes they shouldn't be killed for something beyond their control, and even admits he's been feeding them. Then, without warning, Michael shoves Solomon into the pit and slams the hatch shut. The ghouls immediately surround Solomon, preparing to devour him. But Solomon quickly pulls out his sword and starts cutting them down. Some of the creatures begin feeding on their fallen, while others keep attacking. His torch becomes a vital tool, keeping the monsters at a distance. Up in the church, Father Michael tries to listen for what's happening below, when suddenly someone bursts in and attacks him. Meanwhile, in the tunnels, one of the ghouls leaps onto Solomon's back. He slams it against the wall, which weakens the stone. Shoving the creature away, he uses the break in the wall to widen the gap and make an escape route. As he dashes through a narrow passage, the ghouls give chase. Solomon swings his torch to drive them off, and tosses loose debris behind him to block their path. Just as he reaches the tunnel's end, a ghoul lunges, but Solomon slays it instantly. Two more creatures rush after him, and Solomon sprints toward the exit, smashing through the wooden barrier to reach the surface. The ghouls attempt to follow, but the sunlight burns their flesh, forcing them to retreat underground. Waiting for him outside are the same thieves from earlier, who now reveal Michael's severed head. All three have sworn loyalty to Malachi and gained dark powers, but they're still new to it and lack control. Solomon easily outmatches them, taking them down one after another in just minutes. Grabbing the last surviving thief, Solomon threatens to toss him into the pit of ghouls. He shows him Meredith's picture and demands answers. The thief cruelly tells him the girl is dead. Enraged, Solomon strikes him down, then lets the ghouls finish him off. Sometime later, Solomon arrives in a small town and heads into a tavern. Drowning himself in alcohol, he tries to numb the pain and forget his grief. Just then, a few familiar faces from his old crew appear. They ask Solomon to rejoin them as captain, but he turns them down. He no longer has a cause worth fighting for. That night, while Solomon sleeps, a group of men ambushes and captures him. By the next morning, two unfortunate souls are being crucified for resisting Malachi, while the masked rider observes. Soon, Solomon is dragged before him, and the rider orders that he be nailed to a cross as well. Unlike the others, Solomon stays silent. He believes he deserves this fate. Once unconscious, the masked rider rides off with his followers. At the rear of their caravan, among the slave cages, Meredith is revealed, still alive. She spots Solomon nailed to the cross and immediately begins shouting his name, waking him up and letting him see that she's alive. Driven by desperation, Solomon starts ripping his hands from the nails and loosens the ropes until he crashes to the ground. The cultists move in, ready to finish him off, only to be interrupted by Solomon's old crew, who show up just in time and take out the attackers with ease. Later that evening, Solomon regains consciousness on a bed inside a secret hideout, where a healer is tending to his wounds. He tells her to leave him be, then peels off the bandages to inspect the scars left behind by the nails. After checking that his hands still function, Solomon begins gathering his gear to head out. One of the crew members warns him to rest until he's fully recovered, but Solomon lashes out, prompting the others to calm him down and explain they're ready to fight at his side against Malachi. That night, during dinner, the group shares more of Malachi's history. He was once a priest and a gifted healer, but gave up his soul in exchange for dark power. The masked rider follows his every command, and it's rumored there's nothing behind his mask, not even a face. Solomon insists they'll need to take down the rider first if they want a chance at Malachi, and the crew tells him the cult's headquarters is Exmouth Castle. This stuns Solomon. It's the place where he was raised. They also reveal the current lord of the castle is dead, which fuels Solomon's thirst for vengeance. He orders everyone to prepare for battle. Sometime later, Solomon leads the team through a secret tunnel he remembers from his childhood, sneaking them into the castle grounds. Suddenly, the witch they fought before appears on a balcony and hurls a skull at them, right as Solomon throws his sword and kills her mid-cast. The skull smashes on the ground, acting like an alarm, and dozens of cultists pour out to engage in combat. Chaos erupts as bodies drop across the battlefield. The masked rider soon joins the fight, cutting down Solomon's crew one after another. Solomon charges in to stop him and yells at the others to retreat and find cover. They can't win a direct fight right now. While the rest of the crew escapes, Solomon battles the rider but is soon overpowered and knocked back. Using the moment, the rider slips behind a heavy door and locks it, cutting off pursuit. Left behind, Solomon sneaks through the castle's shadowy halls, ducking out of sight whenever cultists pass. Eventually, he reaches the dungeons, and just as he's about to unlock the chains holding the prisoners, a cultist silently steps up behind him. Solomon takes out the cultist quickly, then grabs his keys and unlocks all the prison cells. Sadly, Meredith isn't among the captives. One man remains behind, and when Solomon checks on him, he's stunned to see it's his father. Frantic, Solomon tries to break the chains, but his father explains they're bound by dark magic and can't be broken. Solomon finally apologizes for Marcus's supposed death, but his father reveals that Marcus actually survived the fall. Although he was severely injured and remained unconscious, doctors and priests couldn't help, so the father turned to a sorcerer for answers. Marcus eventually awoke, but he'd been consumed by darkness and now only obeyed the sorcerer's will. His facial wounds were so severe, he started wearing a mask. It turns out Marcus is the masked rider, and the sorcerer who revived him was Malachi, who drained the family's fortune as his payment. Racked with guilt, the father takes Solomon's gun and begs for release. With a heavy heart, Solomon shoots him, ending his suffering. Elsewhere, the crew is barely holding the cultists back with crossbows and flames, but their strength is wearing thin. Solomon arrives just in time, cutting down an enemy before asking his allies to hold off the cult for just a little longer while he finishes things. He heads straight for the throne room and bangs on the sealed door. A wave of cultists appears behind him, but before they can strike, the door opens, and Solomon rushes inside. He spots Meredith locked in a cage, and she warns him it's all a trap. Malachi sits on the throne, mocking Solomon before vanishing with a spell. Ignoring the warning, Solomon moves to free Meredith, who again pleads that this was all a setup, that the cultists marked her so he'd return to the castle. Suddenly, the masked rider ambushes Solomon, stabbing him in the shoulder and throwing him down before launching into a duel. Solomon tries to reach his brother with words, refusing to fight, but Marcus relentlessly attacks. Left with no choice, Solomon defends himself. Both men are evenly matched and skilled, clashing swords without landing blows as the battle rages through the chamber. While they're distracted, Meredith escapes from the cage and hides. At that moment, Malachi reappears and unveils a giant mirror containing a monstrous demon inside. Desperation mounting, Solomon keeps fighting Marcus and finally manages to land a stab. As Marcus grabs him by the neck, Solomon rips off the mask, revealing the disfigured face beneath. The shock causes Marcus to release him, and Solomon hurls a torch at him, engulfing him in flames. After a few final strikes, Solomon kills him. Meanwhile, Malachi grabs Meredith and uses her blood to awaken the demon in the mirror. Solomon dodges the beast's massive blows and charges back toward Malachi, offering his own soul in return for Meredith's safety. Malachi doesn't believe him and prepares to kill her, only for Solomon to shoot him in the head first. Malachi tumbles into the mirror, dragging the demon and Solomon's soul in with him. Solomon collapses. Meredith runs to him, thinking he's dead, but moments later, he stirs. He remembers William's words and understands that by saving Meredith, he's truly redeemed himself. The rest of the crew arrives and tells him all the cultists died alongside Malachi. The war is over. From that day on, Solomon roams the lands, battling evil and protecting the innocent wherever he goes. Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss more videos like this. Thanks for watching.